It's time to chill out and get ready for a mediocre Q&A live stream. If you're old enough, grab yourself your favorite adult beverage, and if you're not, stick with apple juice. Put your feet up and relax. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the chat. And now let's cue up the intro music. Welcome to the HVACR videos live stream. Hello to everybody out there. I am currently juggling a bunch of different social media platforms, so stay tuned. If you're watching, we are streaming on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn, all these different places. So if things crash and burn and my internet completely dies, my apologies. I'm just trying to do way too much stuff. So hello to everybody out there. It's really awesome. When I make these videos and, for the new people that are watching right now on all these different social media platforms, I know I'm looking everywhere because I got cameras going all over the place. One of these days I'll get this figured out. But, my name is Chris and I'm an HVACR service technician here in Southern California. I make videos on YouTube and all these other social media platforms just to share the little bit of knowledge that I have. First and foremost, I do not know everything, nor will I ever know everything. Okay. I'm a constantly learning technician, just like everybody else. Okay. Nobody knows everything. I started making these videos on YouTube to kind of help my own technicians, and then it quickly turned into something else. I never expected it to get as big as it did, but here we are now. Okay. Um, I started doing these live streams as a way to consolidate the questions, because clearly when I make videos, there's a lot of comments and questions and emails that I get. Before I get too crazy into this too, if you guys have any questions that I don't answer on the stream, that I don't see, feel free to send me an email to hvacrvideos@gmail.com. I try to get to your guys' emails, but I got to admit, I get so many, it's really difficult to get to everything. Okay. So got a bunch of stuff I want to cover. I got a list in front of me. And then, of course, I want to get to the chat. I'll be trying to go back and forth between all the different social media platforms to see what's going on and what kind of comments are coming out. if you guys have questions, feel free to put them in caps lock. It definitely helps out the stream. Neil C says, how many monitors? I've got 4 monitors. I'm currently using all 4 of them. I have the YouTube stream on one. I have StreamYard, which is my main broadcast software. I have a Word document on another one, and then I have TikTok up on another monitor, and then I have Instagram up on my phone. I would love to be able to stream to TikTok from my phone, but the problem is that they don't have a filter that inverts the image. So everything's backwards. On Instagram, they have a filter that I can invert the image. But anyways, these are all just random problems that you guys don't even need to know about. So hello to everybody. I want to start this off with a little bit of a rant. You know, I do this all the time. I tend to go off on these rants, and it is what it is. But social media is a great thing. We have amazing resources. There's different platforms. There's a lot of social media creators. I recently just got into the short form content. It's new to me. I'm still not 100% sure how to utilize short form content, but it's here to stay. It's not going anywhere. I know a lot of people don't like the short form content, but you know, that's just how it has to be. That's what we got going on, right? All the social media platforms want to push that stuff. But what I'm noticing is that, and it's really cool, I recently got into Instagram a little bit more and TikTok a little bit more, and I'm realizing that there's these social media creators that I knew nothing about. And they're out there, and it's really awesome because there's great communities on TikTok, there's great communities on Instagram, Facebook, all these different ones, and it's really cool. But something that I'm noticing, especially on the TikTok side right now, is there is a lot of incorrect information out there. And it's everywhere, right? There's always going to be someone making mistakes. And clearly, I have made probably more mistakes than many people, right? I make mistakes all the time, and I am not 100% correct all the time. But, you know, when I try to give polite feedback to people, you know, just politely in the comments, or sometimes I'll shoot them an email, I get resistance. I get pushback from people, and it's kind of a bummer. But there is a lot of incorrect information out there. And it's really important that everybody questions what they hear or what they read. Just because there's a social media creator that has 100,000 followers or 30,000 followers or 5 followers doesn't mean that they're the worst technician, and it also doesn't mean that they're the best technician. It doesn't mean that they know everything. Okay. So keep that in mind. If you guys are watching my content, if you're watching someone else's content, don't take my content as, you know, the written word and the only way. It's not. Okay. Remember, do your own research, right? My videos are not meant to be a tutorial. My videos are not meant to be this is how you have to do things. That's not why I make content. My videos technically are for my own employees, right? But obviously they've grown legs and turned into something different. But really what my videos have become is just a window into how my brain works, okay? And that's the easiest way to explain it, because I have a very particular way of doing things. I know it's very peculiar, it's different, and I'm just giving you guys a window into how my brain works. And you guys, everybody out there that's watching the content, can take that for what it is and use it for what you need to. But do not just assume because I said something that it's 100% correct. Okay. Maybe I say something and it gives you, you know, gets the hamster wheel spinning in your head, and then you kind of look into it a little bit more and learn, then that's great. Okay. You know, you hear something that I say, then do your research. If you hear an interesting fact that I say, do your research, look into it, and then make your own, you know, conclusion basically. But be very cautious, because I am noticing a lot of incorrect information out there on social media. Okay. No, let's see. Right on. See, and that's something else too. Sean S is saying right now, if he ever does that, please correct him publicly, is what he's asking me to do on his post. He welcomes that. And I welcome feedback too. And that's another thing, right? As long as you're not a jerk to me, 100% give me feedback. And you don't have to do it discreetly. Don't worry about embarrassing me. If you guys see me doing something incorrectly, put it in the comments. All right. But you don't got to be a jerk. Be nice about it and bring it to my attention. And if you feel the need, send me an email too. Okay. I am open to criticism. And I think that's really important for everybody out there on social media to embrace the idea of criticism, right? Because everybody's going to have an opinion. Now, keep in mind that just because you have an opinion doesn't mean that your way is the only way, the same way that I understand that my way is not the only way. Okay. Reading through the chat right now, and let's see what else we got going on in here. Right on. Hello to everybody. It's really awesome to see everybody. Hopefully the video's coming through good for everybody and everything's working out. Oh, it's glitching. Yeah, see, that's what I was kind of worried about, is that it was going to glitch. So let's see. We might have to calm down on some of this stuff. Yeah, I got way too many things going on right now, and I'm probably pushing my computer to the max. So, friendly neighborhood maintenance guy says the only one true way is thermodynamics. That's a pretty good point. That is a pretty good point for sure. Okay, so JJ had asked a question, and he wanted to know how many service calls I give my technicians per day, and do I rush them through their service calls? The answer to that is it depends. I have no specific amount of service calls that I'm going to give a service technician. We start with one call at a time. We finish that call to the best of our abilities. Then we move on to the next one. Now, of course, we get super busy in the summertime, and there's times that we have to tell a technician, hey, you're going out here. This is why I ask my technicians to communicate with me and check in with me. Give me an update once they get to the job and they kind of evaluate what's going on. Give me a call and tell me what's going on. Tell me what they think it's going to take. It doesn't necessarily have to be their full diagnoses. Just tell me what they're seeing. Give me an idea. That way, in my head, as I get more service calls, I have a general understanding as to how long it might take that technician. But I do not have a call lineup of 10 service calls, and I expect, a technician to get so many calls done a day. That's not how I do things. I simply take it one call at a time. Okay. The only call that I guarantee I will be there to a customer at a certain time is the first call in the morning. That's the only one that I'll guarantee that will be there at a certain time. If a customer requests that we show up at this time, it doesn't work that way. Okay. There's certain things we try to cater to the customers, but basically I will only guarantee a customer a service window from basically 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. and that's it, right? We'll be there at 8 a.m. We'll be there at 7 a.m. Everything after that is dependent on the previous calls. Okay. So I'm not out there pushing my guys to constantly, get a service call done every 2 hours or anything like that. Okay. And the other thing too, is I understand that my technicians have a life. For instance, had a service technician on call yesterday, or on call all weekend, right? He was on call Friday, Saturday, Sunday. He didn't get, I don't think, any service calls until Sunday at 3:00 in the afternoon. Okay. Walk-in cooler not working. And it was really a bummer. He went out there, he went through the system. He was digging through it. He found a contactor that wasn't working correctly. It wasn't pulling in correctly. It had voltage going to it. He changed the contactor, but we don't just stop at the first problem. And he knows that. So after he changed the contactor, he watched the box come down to temperature, but he noticed that the compressor was making a funny sound on startup. And then when he put service gauges on it, he noticed that the pressures weren't right. The compressor was internally bypassing. It was a refrigeration compressor. He reset the compressor, turned the system off, let the pressures equalize, turned it back on, watched the box come. It started back up normal. He watched the box come all the way down to temp. But when it's satisfied, the compressor went off on internal bypass again. There was something going on with a pressure relief inside the compressor. So he had to change a compressor yesterday. Didn't get home till about 9 p.m. last night by the time he was done picking it up, all that good stuff, right? But once he got the compressor up and running, he was able to change the compressor without having to go too crazy into the system. He was able to isolate it, recover the gas, change just the compressor. But then guess what? I'm not pushing him to make a perfect repair on a Sunday night. I told him, dude, get the compressor running. Make sure you vacuum down the isolated compressor, start it up. We'll come back Monday and change the dryer. And that's what he did. He got it operational. The dryer had no restriction across it. So I sent him back there today to follow up on the system, make sure it was working right. He pumped it down, changed the liquid line dryer, put a new sight glass on it, went through the system and got it going. So the point that I'm trying to make is I'm not pressuring my guys to bend over backwards and make everything perfect for the customer. We do what we have to do to get the equipment operational, get it functional, get it running. And then most of the time, especially with overtime service calls, we do follow-up visits. We come back during normal time and we go through the system properly, because there's no point in going through something and, just getting it operational, right? We don't want to fix the symptom. We want to fix the problem. So In the situation of my technician yesterday, what killed the compressor? Well, I think that it was our diagnoses talking together was that, basically the system was short cycling for whatever reason because of the contactor not working right. But I still have the compressor to autopsy, which I've kind of made it a pretty good habit of mine to cut open all the compressors that we change just to kind of look at them and see what's going on. Now, this particular compressor was an LG compressor. Um, you know, believe what you want to believe, but I don't really have a lot of good luck with the LG refrigeration compressor. So we got about 6 years out of this one. I'm not too worried about that. They're not the best compressors in my opinion, but that's my own opinion. I'm not saying that y'all need to assume that those are all the worst compressors. I just don't have the best of luck with them. So I'll autopsy the compressor. We'll go through it. But long story short, I don't pressure my guys to get 10 calls done a day. We take it one call at a time and we move through them. Okay. Let's see what else we got going on here. And what kind of pressure switch? Lower, medium temp. Brett, I'm kind of jumping into the comments. My buddy Brett from the Advanced Refrigeration Podcast, I'm assuming that he's asking me, was it lower, medium temp? It was a medium temperature compressor. What kind of pressure switch? It was a one of those janky gosh, what pressure switch is it? It might have been a Danfoss pressure switch or something. I don't know. They're ones that are really hard to set and adjust. So anyways, but we got it going. System has a time delay on it. It's working. We're going to autopsy the compressor and we'll dig into it a little bit more. So, all right, let's get to the next question. So I took last week off for the live stream. I was a little busy with everything, and I was just coming off of Father's Day and my birthday weekend. Had a lot of stuff going on. Had a nice weekend too. Last Friday, I think. Previous Friday was my birthday, and then we had Father's Day. So it was a real nice weekend, spending time with the family and stuff. So that was cool. Let's see. One thing that I do want to point out, something that I learned way too late. Luckily, my relationships with my family and stuff were not permanently damaged. I'm doing my best to build them back up. Is we as technicians need to do better to take time for our family. And something that I struggled with is even taking time for myself. Okay. Something like my birthday. Normally, I don't ever take my birthday off. It's just another day to me, right? But something that I've had to learn, same thing with Father's Day. Father's Day is just like, I don't know. I don't really need a day. That's the way I always thought about it, right? But it's really not just about me too. While it is about me and I need to take time for myself, and I've had to learn that, my family wants to spend time with me too. So as a person, I've realized that I need to slow down a little bit, spend a little more time focusing on my family, focusing on myself. And that's working really good for me. So I encourage you guys all to kind of reflect on yourselves too and look and see where you need to best spend your time. Of course, work is something like, for me, work is not work, right? Because work is my life. I obsess about work, right? Run a small business, run a social media business. And, my hobbies are work and everything. So for me, work is just, it's just what I do. Other people have hobbies. I'm happy for you guys if you have hobbies. I don't really get to spend much time doing any of that stuff. I just constantly focus on myself. But I encourage you guys all to not do as I do and focus on your family and, do that kind of stuff, because it's really going to help you guys in the long run. All right. Do I ever plan on leaving Southern California? It sounds like a really awesome idea to leave Southern California, get away from the politics, get away from the high cost of living and everything. But one thing you got to admit is we have amazing weather here. We are 45 minutes from the ocean, 45 minutes from the mountains. My happy place is in the mountains. My wife's happy place is near the ocean. So it's a compromise living here. My wife and my kids would not be able to leave California. See, I could move to Montana and not ever talk to my neighbors and have plenty of space, and I'd be happy in life, but my family wouldn't. So it's not just about me. So long story short, I'd love to leave California, but I'm not going anywhere anytime soon. So let's see what else we got going on in here. Okay. Well, that's really cool. Noah says that my videos have helped him. That's really awesome, bud. I'm glad that the videos do help you out. Okay. Again, reading through the chat right now, trying to see what's going on. I'm going to scroll out of this so I can see some other stuff going on. And I apologize to TikTok because you guys aren't seeing the greatest screen right now, but I'm having to be able to read the chat and stuff. So Tom is saying life is not a dress rehearsal. And that's really important, right? Because we tend, and that's a great point that he's making too. We tend to, just not really pay attention to ourselves and just kind of, fast lane through life, and life, you only get one shot at it. So take the time and spend the time with the ones you love and enjoy your life, and don't just think about work like I do all the time. Okay. Let's see what else. Digital temperature controllers. I posted a video a while back about digital temperature controllers. Oh, Jennifer Monzo, thank you very much for that super chat. You did not need to do that, but it is much appreciated. Jennifer's from HVAC Chicks, but then also from the Misfits of HVAC podcast with Ryan Hughes. They do a great little podcast and live stream. Really awesome show on Saturdays. So you guys definitely want to go check that out. Thank you very much for that super chat, Jennifer. Brian, thank you very much. Brian Sanders, that's awesome. Again, everybody that's supporting the channel, I really do just appreciate that. Okay. Brian says super chat just for dealing with California taxes. That's awesome. Jennifer says, thanks for coming to the Misfits Saturday. Oh, that was really awesome. Yeah, I had a good time. And then there was another one that came through a few minutes ago. Brandon Priest, thank you very much for that super chat too. Again, it is really awesome and much appreciated. And you guys don't have to do those, but I'm very thankful when you do. So thank you. Let's see what else I'm missing in here. I don't know what I did and why I can't. There we go. For some reason, the chat was like stuck or something like that. So Jason Johnson says, as his supervisor says, MTT. So his supervisor is Holden Shamberg from the HVAC Time YouTube channel. Holden's a good friend of mine. Was actually just texting with him recently the other day. Really awesome dude. And you definitely need to go check out that YouTube channel if you haven't already. It's called HVAC Time. Holden posts a lot of chiller content, a lot of light industrial, heavy commercial content showing chillers and different things like that. And he's a supervisor, so he tends to get into the more complex stuff and then does a lot of training content too. So definitely go check out Holden's channel. Okay. I'd love to find some way to create a network or something like that of all the channels, because again, there's so much misinformation out there on social media. It'd be really awesome to have a cool network of content creators that kind of all stick together. And it's not like we're saying we're the only content creators, but it'd be really cool to have a network and say, these are people that we support and friends of the show and different things like that. It'd be something neat to do. Let me see what else. What else do we got going on in the chat? All right. Digital temperature controllers. A recent video, I put in a Ronco digital temperature controller. I got a bunch of pushback because people had opinions about the type of temperature controller that I used, and then also about the situation in which I installed the temperature controller. One thing that I want people to understand is I'm not completely loyal to any one brand of temperature controllers. I use whatever temperature controller fits the situation. Okay. I keep several different temperature controllers for reach-in coolers and freezers in my van. I have Ronco digital temperature controllers. I have, Penn mechanical temperature controllers in my van. I have KE2 low temp plus defrost controllers. I have KE2 regular medium temp controllers. I mean, I have all kinds of different temperature controllers. I have OEM controllers on my van. It really depends. Dixel controllers. It really depends on the situation. So whatever's going to work best in that situation. But I will say that one person in my YouTube video recently, I worked on a hybrid freezer. I call it a hybrid freezer because they run 20 degrees Fahrenheit. So 20 degrees Fahrenheit is what they run inside the freezer. It's halfway between a cooler and a freezer, right? It's not -10 that keeps ice cream. It's not even, below 0 degrees. It's 20 degrees Fahrenheit, right? So in that video, I installed a new Ronco digital temperature controller, but I had a lot of pushback from people saying I could have just used an air defrost controller. Okay. And no, I couldn't have in that situation because I was running a 20-degree box temperature. Okay. Now this is a freezer evaporator, but it's running 20 degrees box temperature. With that being said, the suction saturation temperature of that evaporator coil, right? The refrigerant temperature in the middle of that coil when it's running, if I am maintaining a 20-degree box, is going to be about 10 degrees typically. Okay. With assuming a design TD of 10 degrees. 20-degree box temp, the saturation temperature of them in the middle of the evaporator coil, depending on the refrigerant too, because I'm using 404, so it's not a high glide refrigerant. So we're going to be running about 10 degrees saturation. With 10 degrees saturation temperature, you need electric defrost. Air defrost is not going to cut it unless you have the ability to do a massive off-cycle defrost, which is going to bring the box temperature extremely high. Okay. So yes, that evaporator coil does need electric defrost at 20 degrees box temperature, because suction saturation is so low. You know, you can do off-cycle defrost or air defrost, but you also have to keep in mind, you know, are they going to have, you know, constantly doors being opened and different things like that? In my situation, this particular customer, it's a restaurant. So almost all restaurants in general, they don't do a good job of shutting their doors, and that creates problems. We definitely need to have the proper defrost set up on that. Okay. Let's see what else we got going on in the chat. See what I'm missing here. Yeah. If you guys do have questions, I encourage you guys to put them in caps lock. It definitely helps me to see what's going on here. Again, apologies for, you know, the feed on TikTok. It's not the greatest looking thing, but it is what it is. Let's see, what else do I have? Have I ever experienced a compressor that runs in reverse no matter what orientation you use? I don't know if I've ever experienced that. And I would even question whether or not it's actually running reverse, or depending on the type of compressor, the bypass is engaged within the compressor. If the bypass is engaged, you may think it's running in reverse because, you know, if it's like a scroll compressor, like a Copeland scroll, then the floating seal is not going to set. Let me grab one right now. So I have a scroll set here. Hold on. For a Copeland compressor. And the way that this scroll set works, this is the top of the compressor. I've autopsied it, right? There's a muffler in here. This is the muffler plate right here. And what actually happens is when the compressor turns on, the floating seal is actually on the top of this right here, going to push up ever so slightly and allow the compressor to start working, and it's going to seal against the top. So there's like a nylon or neoprene or whatever that is, gasket right here, and it's actually going to push up against the top of this, right? And if the floating seal isn't able to move correctly inside this, now this is for a Copeland scroll, could change for other ones, but if the floating seal is not working right, you know, there may be some sort of a bypass going on inside the compressor. You may think it's running backwards when in actuality, you know, it's not. Okay. So yeah, I'd encourage you. I'd love to get some more feedback from you for that question. Maybe I could help you. But yeah, I currently, or, you know, myself have never seen a compressor constantly running backwards. Okay. My luck, that whole thing's going to fall over backwards here in a minute. Let's see what else. Explain why some compressors for walk-in freezers have a DTC valve and some don't. Okay, so a DTC valve, hold on just a second. Let me pull that up. All right. I always have these right here. So this is a DTC valve, okay? This is a discharge temperature controlled expansion valve is really what this is, okay? This is a metering device. It has a sensing bulb right here that goes into the head of the compressor. And whenever it senses a really high temperature in the compressor, this valve opens up. It's literally just an expansion valve, okay? Has a strainer built into it right here. So there's a strainer. And then it has a rotolock fitting. On this one right here, it is not adjustable, has a rotolock fitting, and it just simply opens and closes when the head of the compressor gets too hot, okay? This right here is a form of liquid injection. It's simply there to help to cool off the compressor in high compression ratio situations. That's the point. The reason why it's on there. You're going to see these being used more and more, especially with the high glide refrigerants like 448A. 448A has a lot of similarities to R22. Same thing with R22 low temp stuff. We had a lot of overheat situations in the compressors. Liquid injection was a big savior for all of that. Okay, so on the scroll compressors, you'll see these on the extended medium temp, and the low temp compressors, you'll see these typically on, I think it's 2 horsepower and above on the Copeland scrolls, you'll see them coming with DTC valves. Okay. Now, DTC is just a form of liquid injection. They also make a capillary tube style liquid injection. That is just another metering device. That's all it is. Okay. And it's just there. So I don't have the AE bulletin numbers. Yeah, I should probably do a better job of doing that or finding a way to share it with you guys. But Copeland has a lot of great information about their compressors. And if you pull up the AE bulletin for the compressors, it'll have a full breakdown as to how the DTC valve works and how to replace them and all that good stuff. Okay. So let's see what else we got going on in the chat. Hello to everybody that's in the TikTok chat. Hello to everybody in all the different social media platforms. How's it going? All right. Let me see what else we got going on in here. So I already covered that question. I'm going through a list of questions that I have. So Mick had sent me a message and he was saying that he is noticing, and he wanted my opinion, that he's seeing a lot of laziness within the HVAC industry. And he kind of just wanted to hear my feedback. Now I'm going to paraphrase a little bit because he had a full question in there. He had a service call where there was a lot of incorrect things done, and he was just kind of curious about my opinions on it. I would say that humans are inherently lazy. I am a lazy person. I want to do the least amount of work possible to try to get a job done, right? Everybody has a lazy streak within them, okay? I'm not going to say that it's just the HVAC space. I mean, of course, we're all going to do our best to not work as hard as we can, if that makes sense, okay? Some people may be a little bit worse than others, right? But, you know, there's good technicians and there's bad technicians out there. And it's not just limited to the HVAC space. It happens everywhere, okay? I would say that, you know, in the last 5 years, it seems like things have definitely gotten worse across the board, all the way around the industry and all the other trades. I mean, everywhere it seems like there's a lot of, you know, people that don't want to push hard. But on the flip side, let's analyze this, okay? Some people that do not want to dedicate their lives to a business that's not theirs. Some people that don't want to, you know, kill themselves trying to you know, work a job that doesn't benefit them anything other than a paycheck, right? There is more to life than work. You have to find somewhat of a work balance within that, right? So for me, you know, whether or not I'm owning my own company or not, I'm the type of person that's really, really going to do my best within reason, right? But again, I always have a lazy streak within me too. So nobody's perfect, okay? Let me go through the chat real. What other platforms is he on? You don't see me on YouTube. HVAC teacher, I am on YouTube, my friend. Just go to HVACR videos on YouTube. That is my main platform that I'm on. So I am streaming on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, all those different platforms. Let's see. Chris is saying that laziness or burnout, lack of knowledge. We probably have the lowest retention and join rate of any trade. So that's my friend Chris Haraga. And forgive me if I butchered your name there, Chris. I think I said it correctly. Yeah, I mean, I would say, but on the flip side, this trade, HVACR, really does demand a lot from people, right? I know Chris is a super hard worker and he's a go-getter. Followed Chris on social media. We've met a few times, or we met once actually. Really cool dude. And I know he's a go-getter. He's a hard worker and he's always trying to help his employees or the people working under him. And, you know, he's posting content on social media too. But, you know, yeah, there is, you know, this is a difficult trade. There's a lot of facets within this trade and it takes a lot of brain power. And then you throw in the fact that right now we have the most innovation in this trade, the most, you know, advanced technology coming into it than we ever have, right? They're, you know, the implementing of CO2 coming into everything, hydrocarbons, A2Ls, all the new technology, inverter technology, you know, VRF technology. I know all that stuff's been around, but it's really, really getting pushed hard right now. So, you know, this industry is a difficult one and it's not for everybody for sure. 100%. Let's see what else we got going on in the chat. What am I missing? What's the hardest thing to fix on a roof? Oh, I mean, I wouldn't say that there's one thing that I can pick to be the hardest thing in the world to fix. You know, it just depends on the complexity of the problem with said piece of equipment. Exhaust fans are not fun to work on in the middle of a lunch shift, right? Because they're really, really hot. Customer really needs it fixed. They probably didn't stop cooking, creates a problem, you know, I mean, but it just depends. But I can't say there's just one thing. Let me see what else. What am I missing in here? Okay, cool. Mick said that already answered that question. Okay. I did hear, if you guys didn't already know, that for now, and I'm sure there'll be an appeal and I'm sure there'll be a different way, but for now, the single-use refrigerant cylinder ban is out of the picture and it's not being banned at this time. So there was a bill or something like that where they were going to try to implement getting rid of the single-use refrigerant cylinders that we use. When you buy a brand new jug of refrigerant, insert flavor here. Because if you go to any of the European countries, Canada, and a lot of the other part of the world, they use reusable cylinders, kind of like the recovery cylinders, but they're different style. And so there was a big pushback from our lobbyists and advocates, ACA, and all those different ones, and they really pushed hard against the U.S. government. And for now, they got them to back off from the whole single-use refrigerant cylinder ban. But again, I'm sure that they're just going to regroup and come at it a different way. So stay tuned. Do I pack a lunch when I go to work? So I've been on a bad kick where I haven't packed a lunch probably for about 5 months. But I'm ready to get back into it for sure. I kind of got burnt out on packing lunches. Usually what I do, I can't deal with sandwiches. Sandwiches just drive me nuts. Having a turkey sandwich every day, they suck. It just sucks having the same thing. You give me a peanut butter and jelly, I can eat that every day, but those aren't good for you, right? So what I try to do, lately I've been really lazy and I've just been going through the drive-throughs. I typically don't eat fast food very much. I do like the fast casual stuff. The fast casual has drive-throughs like Panera Bread and stuff like that. But it's starting to get a little ridiculous how expensive that's getting. So when I do take a lunch, what I try to do instead of just making sandwiches is just pack leftovers. I can eat almost anything cold. It doesn't matter what it is, a meatloaf, anything like that. I'll just pack it into an ice chest. I have one of those Hot Logic mini warmer things that you plug into a cigarette lighter or a convenience outlet, and you can let it warm up your food like a hot plate. Yeah, I don't really need it. I just eat stuff cold. So if we make pasta, we usually just make extra and I'll just take it to work with me and eat it. But lately I haven't been packing a lunch. So how do I diagnose an inefficient compressor with low saturation temperature but normal pressures? Refrigerant is R12. Well, the way that you diagnose a compressor that has bad performance is by looking at performance data and leaning on the manufacturer of the compressor to find out what's going on. Okay. If you have low saturation temperature but normal pressures, yeah, there's something funky going on there. So I would say lean on the manufacturer. If it's a Copeland compressor, you can use the Copeland mobile app. If it's not, lean on the manufacturer of the compressor, find their performance tables and analyze the data, measure voltage going in, measure current of the compressor as it's running, under a load and not under a load, and kind of evaluate things from there. Let's see what else we got going on in the chat. What am I missing? All right, big pushback from the garbage men on the disposable tanks. It's possible. All right, reading through the chat. Marwin, okay, so this is an interesting question. Marwin bought a restaurant and he's having issues with the exhaust system, okay? So again, I encourage people out there, whether you're on an HVAC technician, a business owner, a homeowner, if I got time, I'll try to answer your questions. I'm not going to promise I'm going to get to every one of your questions, but feel free to send me an email to hvacrvideos@gmail.com and I'll try to get to them, okay? So Marwin bought a restaurant and he's having exhaust issues. So what he did was he gave me specs on the width of the hood, and he was saying that it doesn't seem right, that the exhaust duct is not centered within the hood, and he's having issues with it pulling smoke and heat out. For those that are going to ask, I'm drinking root beer. So Marwin, first and foremost, if you have an exhaust hood, let's explain how an exhaust hood works, okay? An exhaust hood is a canopy set up that has exhaust fans attached to it and ductwork attached to the hood. The way a hood works is that the duct coming out of the hood does not have to be centered, okay? The way that it works is when you put the grease filters in the hood, the grease filters create a restriction, right? A slight restriction that creates an even airflow all the way across the filter. So it is so important that if you have a hood, that there is no spaces, large spaces between the hood filters. The hood filters need to fill the entire cavity and block off the airflow, so that way all the air has to go through the hood filters. They stop grease if they're designed right, but the next thing they do is they create an even pressure drop across the entire hood so that way it can pull air evenly from the whole thing. His next question is that he mentioned that his hood is so old that there's no way to measure the airflow coming out of the hood. And Marwin, I'm going to tell you that that is incorrect. It doesn't matter how old your hood is. You can still measure the airflow. Now, measuring airflow across an exhaust hood is a little bit difficult. Okay. You typically have to use something, you can't use a normal flow hood. Anemometers don't really work too well. You typically have to use some sort of a grid or velocity matrix that hooks up to a high precision manometer and can do calculations and convert the pressure measurements to airflow or the velocity measurements to a CFM, right? But you can measure airflow across a hood. It doesn't matter the age of it, but you have to have the filters installed in the hood, and you're going to have to do some calculations. It's not easy, but it is possible, okay? So what I would highly suggest with you, Marwin, is, one of the things that people don't understand when they buy restaurants, when they open restaurants, is the exhaust system should be equally as important as your cooking appliances that you choose. The exhaust system needs to be designed for your cooking appliances. So when you're designing a kitchen, you figure out what kind of ovens and what kind of fryers you're going to have. And then at the same time, you got to figure out the BTU output, the heat output of those appliances. And then you're going to measure and design your air hood or your exhaust hood alongside of the equipment. Okay. So you can't just assume that you can shove as much equipment as you want underneath the hood, because there's also different types of hoods for exhaust systems. There's grease hoods, there's steam hoods. So, not every hood is designed to have grease or high heat. So a lot of things come into play when it comes into a restaurant, right? So he's asking, again, paraphrasing his question, he's asking, making estimations on the amount of airflow going out of the hood, and he thinks that he doesn't have enough makeup air. Really, you're throwing things at the wall and trying to see what's sticking. And don't take offense to what I'm saying, Marwin, but you need to get a competent mechanical contractor involved to come in and evaluate your system. They need to do a commercial building load calculation, that focuses on the exhaust system, and don't just look at just the exhaust system, because just like a home, the entire building is part of what they're looking at. They're looking at the air conditioning system. They're looking at the exhaust system. They're looking at the cooking appliances, and then they can make an evaluation. If you cannot find a contractor that can help you with that kind of stuff, I encourage you to reach out to some of the major exhaust hood manufacturing companies, and they can get you in touch with a mechanical contractor that can do these complex measurements. So reach out to GreenHeck, reach out to Captive Air. One of those two companies, Captive Air has their own service technicians, and I believe they have their own design engineers, maybe. Okay. GreenHeck also has design engineers. And if anything, they can give you leads on contractors that can help you with your situation. Okay. But understand something, you're in for it, because, you can't just buy into a restaurant and assume that this hood is going to work for everything you're going to shove underneath it. You need to listen to what these guys say, and they're going to make some recommendations that you're probably not going to like, but it's just what you have to hear. So, all right, let's see. HVAC teacher is saying he's on YouTube and he doesn't see it. Yeah, I'm there, man. HVACR videos. Just look it up. It'll be there. All right, let's see what else we got going on in the chat. Will. So my buddy Will, it just reminded me that he's been a supporter of my channel for 20 months now. That is really awesome. That's Will Speed. He's a good friend of mine. Really cool dude. So thank you for being a channel member on YouTube, Will. That's really awesome, bud. Have I ever serviced Teppanyaki restaurants? Lots of exhaust fans and makeup airs. Dale Marr is asking me. So hibachi restaurants, Teppanyaki restaurants, what are they? Korean barbecue restaurants where you cook your own food and they have little exhaust hoods. No, I've never serviced those types of restaurants, but I will say that every one of the Teppanyaki, hibachi restaurants, or Korean barbecue restaurants that I've ever been to that has those multiple hoods, their building balance is always ridiculously dumb and not correct. So, it is what it is. A lot of people don't understand building balance, and a lot of restaurant tours, restaurant management, restaurant owners don't even really want to get too involved because, you know, depending on who they are and stuff, sometimes they're just more concerned with making money than actually having an establishment that works properly. So I released a video working on an R290 system, and it had a leaking expansion valve. Oh boy, did I get all kinds of questions and people pushing back on what I said in the video. And again, like I said in the beginning, right? I started this with a little rant about social media, and I'm going to cover it again because we got a lot of new people in here. Just because you see someone on social media that has a lot of followers does not mean that they know what they're doing. Okay. Don't assume that just because I have 100,000+ followers watching me on YouTube or whatever, right? Insert however many numbers I have, doesn't mean that I'm the best technician. Okay. Followers do not equal them being good. Okay. You guys as technicians cannot just take what you hear on the internet and assume it's correct. You can take information that sounds correct and do your own research and then validate it and use that information. Okay. So keep that in mind. Now, I released a video where I was working on an R290 system. Something that I have noticed when I started doing the short form content is I'm getting a lot of trolls and a lot of pushback on the short form content. And I believe it's because I cannot give proper context. When you see a short on TikTok, when you see a short on YouTube or a reel or whatever you want to call them, right? Just the short form content, understand that majority of the time they're limited to 60 seconds. Some of them let you go a little bit longer, but for the most part, they're limited to a short amount of time. YouTube, I can make a video 40 minutes and I can explain everything that I think is needed. And then I do show notes at the end and explain things that I think were missed. But when I do the short form content, you know, it's hard to get all that explanation in there. So I notice a lot of pushback from people in comments, and that's fine. I'm okay to feedback and stuff. But in the video where I worked on an R290 system and I had a leaking TXV, I explained that it was a stainless steel Danfoss TXV. If you guys do not know, the newer model stainless steel Danfoss TXVs are stainless steel on the outside of the TXV, but they are copper coated on the inside. Okay. So they did that so that way you didn't have to heat up the valve so hot, because in the past, if you guys have not been in the industry that long, you can go back to the late 80s, early to mid 90s. We had stainless steel TXV that were stainless steel all the way through. They were peanut valves, little itty bitty guys, and you had to use silver solder to solder them. People would burn up the valves all the time trying to solder those things together, because to do silver solder, you have to get it a lot warmer than you have to when you do 15% sulfos. Okay. So on the newer Danfoss TXVs, they are copper coated on the inside. And I'm noticing a trend from multiple manufacturers where they're constantly leaking in the same spot. At first, I'm like, well, maybe the manufacturers are doing something wrong. Okay. But the odds that it's from manufacturer to manufacturer to manufacturer and it's all leaking on the same spot, I don't think they're doing anything wrong. My humble opinion is that there's something that's happening within the plating process on those TXVs. It's a stainless steel TXV and it's copper plated on the inside. So that way you use 15% Silphos to braze them. And I tend to notice that they have a lot of leaks on the outlet of the TXV. So I mentioned in my short form content, and I've mentioned in my YouTube video, that I don't like the fact that you use 15% to braze those. And a lot of people are like, you don't use 15%, you use silver solder. Okay. If you finish the YouTube video, you'll see that I actually silver soldered it in because I wanted to try to eliminate any issues. Now, I still don't even know if that's going to eliminate them, because I really do think it has to do with the plating process that's going inside there. But on a copper plated TXV, when you heat it up to braze it with 15% Silphos, if you get it a little bit too hot, and it's really easy to overheat those valves, the copper plating will start to come off. Ask me how I know, because I've done it a million times. Okay. The copper plating starts to come off. Then that valve becomes really, really difficult to braze. And the fact that you're using silver solder, I mentioned that I don't like the way that silver solder and Silphos mix. I just don't like it. And I'm going to kind of back that up a little bit. I got a lot of people pushing back saying, you can mix them, no problem. Everything's good. I'm stupid, whatever, right? If you do a little bit of research for yourself, you will find out that silver solder and 15% Silphos, they will mix. They will. Okay. They will bond together. That is true. But I don't care that the solders are mixing. It's more that the solders are bonding to the dissimilar metals that I'm trying to get them to stick to. 15% Silphos, I don't care how much flux you put on it, is not going to properly bond to a dissimilar metal like stainless steel. from copper to stainless steel, 15% Silphos is not going to do that. If it's copper plated, yeah, they're trying to do some weird stuff in there, right? But if it's stainless steel to stainless steel, I don't care how many of you out there are saying you've done it and it works perfect. It might kind of work, but it's not right, and it's not a proper braze joint, okay? Silver solder, 45% and above. I typically run with 56% silver solder. It's a couple bucks more, but you get more silver content. That bonds to dissimilar metals. 15% Silphos does not bond to those dissimilar metals. So just because you have a valve that was brazed in with Silphos, and my logic was that I'm not going to put silver solder on top of the Silphos because it's not making a good bond, I was going to change the whole valve and then silver solder the new valve in and hope that that fixes the problem. But I still think that we might have problems because I think that the problem lies in the plating process, okay? But the point that I was making when I was saying that is you can put 15% in with the silver solder, but it's still, the 15% is not going to bond to the dissimilar metal. It's just going to mix with the other solder. So I don't see the point in trying to mix those, okay? That's my 2 cents on the matter. Let me see. Let me see what else we got going on here. Zach Cody says in his experience, they mix like crap and you'll have a leak, period. And yeah, I agree. Okay. 50%, 56% is what you use. Right on. Let's see. Charles Mosley says he wants a hat. If you guys are interested in the hats, we actually have a crap ton of them. We have several different styles. We have dad hats. We have flat bill hats. We have this hat right here, and I put a lot of effort into this hat. This hat right here is really designed for HVACR service techs. But you can go to my website, hvacrvideos.com, and I have all my merchandise available. So this particular hat right here is actually a hat that I put a lot of effort into. What you can't see, what I'm showing you guys right now, is I can see light through this hat. If one of you guys out there has one of my normal flex fit, dry fit hats, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's a breathable material. I can see through it. I can see light through it, but it's not a trucker hat. Okay. It has a black underbill, right? It is a flex fit design. It's washable, and it only has my acronym on it. It does not say HVACR videos. I purposely designed the hat that way, so that way it wouldn't potentially interfere with any of your uniform policies. Most companies will allow you to wear a hat that says HVACR because it's just an acronym for our industry, right? So this is my number one hat, but I also have a flat bill and a dad hat. Again, they're all available on my website, hvacrvideos.com. And I see Bill in there, and then Brian saying we need sun hats. Yeah, I've been investigating the sun hats, but I don't like bucket hats. They're not big enough for me. I like the bigger style. Bill is making fun of me today because I'm currently testing out a giant hat. It's like a rice paddy hat. Like, the thing is huge, comes out here. It's bigger than a sombrero. Giant hat, covers my neck and everything. No need to wear a hood scarf. It's actually a really nice hat. Someone said it looks like a girl's hat when I showed a picture to my friends. Yeah, so I'm going back and forth, but yeah, I don't like bucket hats because they're too small. It defeats the purpose. I want it to cover my neck and everything. So I'm working on a sun hat. Let me see what else. Right on. Reading through the chat right now. Okay. Why was the okay. So, in the video that I released over the weekend, I had a condenser fan motor that had filled up with water. You guys go watch the video if you haven't already. It's a pretty cool video. It went through like everything, diagnosing an electrical short, finding condenser fan motors that failed, finding a hub that was on backwards. Like, it was a whole bunch of stuff. But in the video, there was a fuse that was bypassed, and someone asked a really cool question. They said, okay, so the fuse was bypassed. The power was no longer coming out the bottom of the fuse. Someone pulled the wire, put it on the top. Scott, HVAC rookie, thank you very much for that super chat. He's a good friend of mine. I really do appreciate it. You don't have to do that, but thank you, bud. That's really awesome. Okay. So, I'm losing my train of thought here real quick. Oh, condenser fan motor fuse. So with the fuse being bypassed, what would happen? Why is that bad? Okay. So in that particular situation, you have a circuit breaker coming from the rack. Then you have 208 single phase coming from the circuit breaker going to a contactor. The coil voltage to the contactor is running through fan cycle switches. And then it comes out of the contactor, goes through individual fuses, then goes to each fan motor. So the question lies, why is it bad if the fuse is bypassed? There's a circuit breaker before it. So in theory, if something was to happen with the motor, the circuit breaker should catch it. Yes. Having the individual fuses for each motor, though, makes it so that way if there's a problem with a single motor, it doesn't shut down both motors, right? If a fuse was bypassed, then if there was a problem and it was to trip the breaker, it would potentially shut down both condenser fan motors, then in theory, shut down the entire rack because those were the only cooling fans for the condensers. So it's always important. They put those fuses there for a reason. I brought the system back into normal operation, wired it back up the way it should be, put proper fuses and found the electrical shorts and changed the bad motors, and all was well. But yeah, it was a bad deal that the motor was not working. Okay. Reading through the chat right now, seeing what I'm missing. Okay. Nothing in there. Cool. Right on. Let's see what I'm missing on TikTok. I got way too many platforms going on here right now. On a make line cooler with a rail, what saturation temperature would you look for with both calling? Austin, I can't tell you what saturation you would look for with both calling because saturation is going to change depending on the TXV operation, right? So I'd highly encourage you to reach out to the manufacturer and ask them, okay? And again, it's going to change from manufacturer to manufacturer. Does the cold rail have a fan motor? Is it a static cold rail with no fan motors? Is it a glycol unit like Kyrac Blue systems? Like there's so many different variables that are going to change everything, okay? So you always want to lean on the manufacturers and find out, but understand something too. When you call the manufacturer and you say, hey, what oftentimes manufacturers won't tell you saturation temperatures. They'll just tell you pressures. Okay. But you can backwards calculate saturation temperatures. If you guys, my brain works differently and I figure things out in a different way. So let's just say you call True Manufacturing and you're working on a TSSU reach-in cooler. It doesn't have a cold rail, TSSU 48 or something like that, right? That's a 2-door open top cooler. So you call True Refrigeration and you say, what kind of superheat do you guys want? And they say, yeah, they don't have superheat numbers, but they tell you pressures. Okay. So when they tell you pressures, that doesn't give you the whole picture. So what you do is you say, all right, what pressures do you guys want the system to run at what ambient temperature and what box temperature? If they can tell you the box temperature, they can tell you the ambient temperature that it was designed for, and they can tell you what pressures it's going to run. You can figure out condenser TD, liquid saturation, suction saturation. You can figure out all that stuff by just backwards calculating those numbers. If you know that they want the box to run at 37 degrees, well, you know that the box temperature is going to be 37. And then they told you the suction pressure. So then you can look at the saturation temperature of the suction pressure at that pressure, and you can figure out the evaporator TD. And then you could do the same for the condenser and figure out the condenser TD. I've been thinking about this because I have weird ways of figuring things out like that I probably need to figure out a way to put those out there so that way people, I got to figure out how to get that weird brain action that I have going on out to the masses. Are Alliance compressors made by Copeland? They look the same. Dragons Gaming, I have heard that Alliance compressors are made by Copeland, but I cannot confirm that 100%, but I have heard that before. So, I talked about in the beginning of the stream that nobody's perfect and we all make mistakes. It's how you grow from those mistakes, in my opinion, that defines you. Okay. So it's okay to make mistakes as long as you learn from them and try to grow from them. That's my opinion on the matter. All right. In the recent video where I changed both those motors and found the rack condenser fan motor had been full of water, when I cleaned the condenser, I mentioned that you want to clean that trough underneath the condenser. But then when I was all done, there was still a bunch of dirt and water in the bottom of the rack. And the question that I had from a few people was they were asking me, well, isn't that dirt just going to suck back up to the condenser? Yes, it is. Good point. Okay. But there's a fine line between being practical and being excessive and just taking way too much time. I don't carry a shop vac in my truck. The only way to properly clean out that rack is to take a shop vac and spend about 2 hours vacuuming everything out, getting all the dirt out. Customer doesn't want to pay for that. So I do my best within reason to get the dirt from around the rack, to try to wash out as much of the dirt when I'm hosing the rack off. But inevitably, there's still going to be dirt in the bottom of the rack. It's just a poor design, and it is what it is. So, who makes Titan Force compressors? You keep having issues with new ones. I have no idea. Titan Force compressors. That sounds like a Ninja Turtle compressor. I don't know, man. The way they're naming some of these compressors and some of these manufacturers, it's kind of silly. Some of the names they're coming up with. So it is official now. I've known about this for a couple years now. If you guys didn't know, here you go. True Manufacturing, the ones that makes refrigerators, they've released an ice machine now. And it is official. It was in beta for the last couple of years. I've been seeing pictures of it for years, them trying it at different locations, but they are making ice machines now. So stay tuned. Those will be out on the market soon too. All right, reading through the chat right now. Copeland compressors say Copeland on them, says Nate Peterson. Yeah, that is true. There's no audio through Instagram? Oh, well, that's a bummer. So I'm just sitting here streaming on Instagram, so no one can hear. That's a bummer. I'll go ahead and end the Instagram. I apologize. I didn't know there was no audio on Instagram, so that sucks. Yeah, my bad. Discard media right there. So yeah, eliminated that problem. See, that's what happens when I try to stream to too many platforms. My bad. All right, let's see what else we got going on in the chat. I should have put a Bosch unit on my house. I thought about putting Bosch unit in, but no, I decided to go with a Carrier Infinity. CM, thank you very much for that super chat, man. That is much appreciated. Wow, that's really awesome. So he said, just accepted a job doing refrigeration and light commercial. He was honest with his experience, 4 years, very little refrigeration, but with the pay they are giving him, he's worried they will expect too much. You got this, man. You got this. You'll do okay in the light commercial side. It's a great part to get into, and you know, you can build your way up. Feel free to send me emails if you have questions and I'll try to answer them. So what do I think of True's ice maker design? I've yet to work on it. I just know it's out there. So I haven't seen it yet, Brian. See what else. All right. Let's see what else we got going on in the chat. What am I missing? You want a hat? I already answered that one. Very nice. Right on. There's really cool people commenting in the TikTok chat. That's really awesome. Thank you very much for the nice words. What's my preferred condenser cleaning soaps? I prefer using the refrigeration technologies Viper line. So they have the Viper Venom packs, the coil brightener, and the condenser coil cleaner. So the yellow pack is for light dirt and for aluminum condensers, microchannel condensers, and then the blue pack is for heavy dirt buildup and copper and aluminum fin condensers. So if you're interested in getting any of the refrigeration technologies chemicals, you can get them from truetechtools.com. Use my offer code Big Picture. You'll get a discount. I get a small commission from that. It's a great way to help support the channel. You can get them at other retailers too. It's just TrueTech's really easy. But yeah, I'm always pushing the refrigeration technologies cleaners because they do a great job. So what is my preferred AC brand? Again, it's just dependent on what I can get and what works for me. So light commercial is a good way to get your hands bloody. That's 100%. Can I talk about my Megger test process? Matt, I'm still learning with the Megger. Basically, I've had my buddy Jason Johnson sent me some great literature. I've been able to learn a little bit more. But the whole point of using a mega ohm meter is to test for potential to ground, resistance to ground, whatever. Okay. So it's going to take a high voltage, run it through the wires higher than what the system's operating at typically. And it's going to look for any insulation breakdown on the wiring or potentially on the motor. And it gives you a little bit more of an accurate reading as opposed to using a normal VOM meter, right? So it just basically runs a higher voltage and has, you know, it's a better quality meter for testing for that resistance leakage to ground, or for that voltage leakage to ground. Let's see what else we got going on in the chat. Do I plan on having my new home unit running by the time it gets hot? Well, it's getting hot right now. And now it's all really finally on to me because I have, for the most part, all the sheet metal that I need. I still have to get a couple things made. I'm hoping to get it running in the next bit soon, but again, work's getting busy, so it's getting kind of difficult. I'm glad I don't have any big obligations with this home project, so that way I can just kind of get it done when I want to get it done. So if I make a 30-minute video, how long did the entire job take? Now, that's a hard one, but a 30-minute video is usually around 3 or 4 hours worth of work. I usually consolidate the videos down to a much shorter time showing the highlights of the videos. I don't show from beginning to end because you guys would literally be watching 4 to 7 hour videos of me just walking around rambling. So I cut them down. But if it's a 30-minute video, it's probably a 3 or 4 hour job. Easy. So am I in the desert? No, I am not in the desert. I get a lot of people reaching out to me through email, asking me to hire them because they live in a certain desert area that I happen to work in every once in a while. I have a lot of people reaching out to me asking, you know, when I show another video where I'm not in the desert, you know, why I would do something a certain way or whatever. In Southern California, we have a lot of microclimates. Microclimates meaning that I can go 40 miles and the temperature can be 20 degrees cooler or 20 degrees hotter than where I'm at. So, you know, I can drive 30 miles in one direction, 20 miles in another direction, and be in a whole different microclimate within the Southern California region. I can be in the desert, I can be in the mountains, I can be at the ocean, I can be all over the place. Okay. HVAC teacher, thank you very much for that super chat. I really do appreciate that. You didn't have to do that, but that's very nice. What trade school did I go to? And do I send guys to a trade school? So I went to Mount San Antonio Community College in Walnut, California at the time, and I would consider it to still be one of the better HVACR trade programs in Southern California. Mount San Antonio Community College would be a big recommendation to me or from me, and I would also and have also sent service technicians to go to school there. Okay. The cool thing I like about Mount SAC is what typically they call it around here is it's a community college. It's a community college, so it is not a big upfront cost for students, and you can typically pay per unit if you have to pay at all, because they subsidize a lot of the trade school educations at the community colleges these days. So, but it's a great program, and I like the community college format. I'm also been really thinking a lot about a hybrid format where you take online education and then you do an apprenticeship. And that's been really on my mind lately, and a new idea that I have about, you know, helping to educate new people. So in the future, I may consider having a student do an online program after work at night, but then come to work and get their hands on with me during the day. That way they can get the fundamentals and the textbook definitions of superheat and subcooling and, you know, electrical theory and all that stuff, but then they can get practical and get their hands dirty while working with me. But yes, I encourage people to go to trade school of some sort. It's very important. And I had a very good experience at trade school. Mount SAC for me was good because I was able to go to night classes. So I worked during the day. I didn't have to pay $30,000 up front. I didn't have to take out a student loan. Now, at the time when I went to trade school, it was probably like $300 or $400 a unit a class. I don't even know if it was that much. It was probably like $200 a unit or something, or maybe even $100 a unit. I don't know. Back in ancient times, 20 years ago when I took schooling. But it was affordable, and it still is affordable. So I like the community college programs. I definitely would recommend Mount San Antonio Community College to anybody that's in the area for sure. Let's see what else we got going on in here. Would I use 152A refrigerant for replacing R22? Man, there's so many different refrigerants out there. I've never heard of 152A. No idea what that is. Would I use it for replacing R22? I don't know. I need to find out more about it. So let me see what else we got going on in the chat. Gotta love California climates. 100%. Scott and Jason Johnson both are from California too. So Scott lives a little bit north of me, and then Jason used to be in San Diego, California, and he's currently in the New California of Texas, New California Republic of Texas. So see what else. Let me see what else we got going on in here. So Jason Johnson says, HVAC teacher, tell them about your program. Yeah, you can feel free. Maybe we can talk about it sometime, HVAC teacher. Shoot me an email, hvacrvideos@gmail.com. We can talk about your program and all that good stuff. CM, again, thank you very much for that super chat, man. That is really awesome. Says he just put an Infinity in his parents' house. They love it. And you have to look down into the condenser to see if it's running. It's so quiet. Yeah. The only thing about the Infinity line that is a bit whatever, and I get it, is just the size of it. You know, it's rather large for a 2-ton, but that's kind of the way that it's going for the other stuff. I mean, you can go to like the Bosch equipment that has the very, very small footprint, but then the coils are like double, triple stacked, or I know they're double stacked at least. So, you know, I like the Infinity for the ease of getting into everything. I mean, it's kind of accessible in there. You know, it's not all super crammed into a tight little package, even though it kind of is a little bit crammed in there. So how about the humidity? You want to escape, your company has offices there. How about Jason Johnson, got you. Okay. Am I still bruised from skating? So Scott's asking about skating. So for my birthday, I turned 40 a week and a half ago on June 16th. And for my birthday, we had a birthday party at a roller skating rink, like kicking it old school over here, right? So my wife like set it all up where she arranged to the skating rink. We rented it for 2 hours before they opened. It's really sounds bigger than it was, but it wasn't, right? It was just a little shitty skating rink. But We rented a skating rink out for 2 hours. And do I am I all bruised because of that? No, I had a blast. I've always been very active on rollerblades and stuff and skateboarding. Probably don't talk about it enough, but I ride my skateboard daily around the neighborhood and the mailbox and different things, and then riding rollerblades with my kids and stuff. So no, it's no different going to the skating rink. It was a lot of fun though. And then after the skating rink, we all left and we went to an old school like pinball arcade near me at a place called the Riverside Game Lab, which is right next to the Riverside Food Lab. And they have old pinball machines and all the old arcade games and stuff. And so we spent a couple hours there playing video games afterwards. So it was like an epic 40th birthday party for sure. It was a lot of fun. Ever run into a walk-in that was labeled by the previous tech wrong and they put in 134A instead of 404? Yes, Brandon, I have worked on walk-ins, freezers, coolers where people have put the wrong refrigerant in it. I will say I used to do work for a hospital customer. And while it was a lot of really fun stuff, some of the stuff was really annoying because some of the after hours engineers that would work there, they would do some silly things just to get equipment running. Like, you know, sometimes they would store refrigerant on top of the walk-ins. And so you'd go up there and like, I went up there to work on a walk-in and they were like, it's not working right. And it's short cycling. And I went up there and there's a drum of 502, but it didn't take 502. And I'm like, what the heck? Someone just dumped a bunch of 502 in there. So you just recover all the gas, put dryer on it, put the right refrigerant in it and get it going. I've done it many times where people have mixed refrigerants. If in doubt, pull it out. That's the easiest way. So if you're working on a system and it's doing funky things, it's not running right, recover the gas and start over. Pull a vacuum, change the dryer, especially if other people's had their big fat fingers in it. All right. Yeah, if you haven't already, please smash the thumbs up button. It definitely helps out the stream. Really does. Have I seen a walk-in condensing unit with excessive shaking from a bent fan blade? Oh yeah, seen it a bunch of times, man. It happens, you know, and it causes refrigerant leaks and all kinds of things like that. So, see what we got going on in the chat right now. So it is really awesome. I see a lot of great feedback. I'm looking at the TikTok chat right now. Really awesome. Thank you. What do we have? So do I have any part-time employees or day workers on weekends? No, we only have full-time employees working for us. Chris Brooks says, walk-in cooler trips on high pressure right after defrost every time. There's a lot of things going on. That's a loaded question. Depending on the age of the equipment, you could have high load situations where coming out of defrost, there's a high load and the TXV is opening up way too wide and it's flooding refrigerant back to the compressor. And, you know, CPR valves can help in those situations. There's a bunch of different variables to that. So I definitely need some more context. Again, if I don't answer anybody's questions or you want to get more information, feel free to shoot me an email to hvacrvideos@gmail.com and I can try to help you out. Okay. Let me see what else. I saw another one. What is my preferred condenser? I already answered that one. I already answered that one. Do I think the masses should adopt the national code for plumbing? I mean, you know, in general, national standards, I mean, they do have benefits for sure. I think that there should be licensing requirements to be a service technician. I mean, there's so many different things. So, but I'm also not a huge fan of government intervention. So it's kind of a fine line there because it's a slippery slope. Too much intervention just creates drama and it's just, you know, impossible to get anything done. But then at the same time, you have a crap ton of idiots out there doing stupid stuff. So it'd be nice to have some kind of control over them. See what else we got going on in the chat. Oh, this was a great point that someone made or question in my recent video where I found a wire that had shorted out in the conduit. They were asking why it is that I use metallic conduit instead of just the PVC seal tight. And I typically use metallic seal tight conduit or liquid tight conduit because you always have the metal jacket to protect it in case the PVC jacket on the outside of it breaks. Okay. I'm in Southern California. We have a high UV exposure. If you put PVC liquid tight conduit on the roof, right, the flexible conduit, that stuff will disintegrate and break, and then you'll just have exposed wires. In the situation of my recent video where I had a refrigeration rack, that is probably one of the good use cases for the standard PVC stuff because it's typically not exposed to the sun. It's inside the rack. And if there is vibration inside there, it would just be the wires rubbing against the wires and not so much rubbing against the metallic jacket on the inside. But I have limited storage ability when it comes to conduit in my vans. I keep seal tight, metallic seal tight on my vehicles. On a good majority of my vans, we have a certain amount of metallic seal tight, and we have metallic seal tight fittings, 90s and straights for 1/2 inch and 3/4. For me to add PVC seal tight, non-metallic and all the fittings and everything, it's just difficult, and I don't use it enough. But there is situations where it would benefit me, like in that refrigeration rack for sure. So why don't I install air filters on those refrigeration racks to clean the air before the air gets sucked in? Because air filters would just get plugged up way too fast, and it would lead to a lot of nuisance service calls. How in the heck can I film my service calls and charge my customers? Is it fair for me to break down a motor on the roof while my customer's still paying me? I'm ripping my customers off. Those are the comments that I'm getting from people all the time. First and foremost, you guys that are watching these videos and commenting have no idea how much I charge my customers. You don't know if I discount my bills when I spend a lot of time filming, because I actually do, but I don't point it out to you guys, okay? My customers are my number one priority. I want to continue to work for my customers for 20 more years, 30 more years. Okay. My longest standing customer that I have right now, they're my biggest customer. We worked with them for over 30 years now. We've worked with this one customer. Okay. My dad started the company and I'm running it now. Worked with them for over 30 years. My other customers, I've been working for them for 15 plus years. Okay. So again, you guys don't understand what I'm doing, right? I'm not putting my billing and stuff like that out there, but I can promise you that I take care of my customers because I want to continue to work for them. My customers, for the most part, they all know that I film too, okay? But it's not something that we publicize out there, and we don't, I still try to be very discreet. I still don't show customers locations because the general public doesn't understand what dirty is. They don't understand. When they see something in my video, they think it's the grossest thing in the world. But in all reality, most of the stuff that I show is pretty normal in every restaurant. Okay. Breaking down a motor on the roof, should I be charging the customer for that? Well, I would argue that I should, because that's part of my diagnoses. Now, it's one thing, I'm not going to cut a compressor open on the roof. That's going to take me 3 hours. The customer doesn't want to pay me for that. If the customer wants me to really analyze something, yeah, they can pay me to cut a compressor open. But for the most part, I do that at the shop. But if I'm going to take 10 minutes and take some bolts out of a motor and pull it apart to try to look at it, yeah, that's no problem billing the customer for that, because I'm genuinely finding out what killed that motor. Okay. Our job is to solve the problem, not the symptom, right? The motor going bad is the symptom. What killed the motor, right? Well, the plugs were in the wrong place. I wouldn't have known that until I pulled it apart and saw the water damage inside of it. Okay. So it is what it is. What schools and or training should he do to advance himself? Not many lead techs where he is. That's a good one, Chris Brooks. I don't know, man. Let me think about that. Chris, send me an email. Okay. Again, hvacrvideos@gmail.com. And I try to get back to that. Make sure you point out that you talked to me in the TikTok chat, and I'll try to get to that question, bud. All right, let's see what else we got going on in the chat. Is anyone's business what I charge? Nope, it's not, right? See what else we got going on in here. Exactly. Reading through the chat, seeing what I'm missing. Pull out game on 100. That's right. Most of my videos, the equipment looks great compared to what he sees every day, is what CM's saying. Yeah, I try to take care of my equipment as much as possible. I'd say that I have changed more compressors in the last 5 years than I've ever changed in my entire career. Compressor replacements to me didn't used to happen. I can remember discussing with a compressor one time when I called him and I was like, man, we got a bad compressor. And he's like, all right, no big deal, change it. And it's like, no, I don't think you understand. We don't have failed compressors very often with our kind of service. That's when we were doing preventative maintenance for all our customers. Like, failed compressors was not a normal thing for me. Today, most of my customers are not doing routine maintenance, and failed compressors, I swear weekly we're changing a compressor somewhere. And it's just majority of the time it's preventable. It's all preventable, but the customers just don't want to spend that money. It just blows my mind. All right. Don't understand why people want to know what someone charges. Every business. Yeah, exactly. Every business has different situations. 100%. So Copeland scroll is trash. See, that's really interesting, CM, because man, I love a Copeland scroll compressor, bud. I have really good luck with them. So, exactly. All right. Well, it is time that I wrap this up. I really do appreciate everybody out there. I apologize to the Instagram people. I know you're not watching anymore, but if you happen to switch over to this side, I did not know there was no audio on Instagram. So my bad. Again, thank you so very much. If I missed your guys' questions, feel free to shoot me an email, hvacrvideos@gmail.com. Again, remember, don't take something that I say in my video as the golden rule. Okay. Make sure you do your own research. Be careful on all the social media platforms. Just because someone has a bunch of followers does not mean they know what they're doing. I've been watching a lot more content on TikTok lately, and I'm seeing a lot of incorrect information. And I realize I am not the perfect technician. I really am not, okay? But there is a lot of bad information that I've been finding on social media lately. So be very cautious about who you trust and what you trust. And don't assume just because they have a lot of followers that they know what they're doing, because that followers don't mean crap, okay? John Smith, thank you very much for that super chat. Again, you all are so awesome. Please smash the thumbs up button on the way out. I really do appreciate you. We're going to go ahead and end the live stream, and we will catch you on the next one.